Hello, beautiful women, and welcome into the Earth Goddess Energy Archetype Activation. Today, we're going to work out where your fatigue is coming from so that you can stop blaming yourself and start choosing the right healing strategy so that you can move back towards steady, sustainable energy. Now, my name is Kerri-Anne, and I'm a naturopath and a spiritual healer, and I'm dedicated to helping women move from exhaustion and into grounded, sustainable energy. I combine nutritional medicine, nervous system support, hormone health, and soul-centered healing to guide women to understand their bodies and to honor your rhythms and to get your energy and vitality back. Now, an energy archetype is a pattern of fatigue that reflects how your energetic and physical body, your hormones, nervous system, your digestion, and emotional world interact. It gives a language to what many women feel but cannot explain. Now, this is important because women are often dismissed when they're tired. The lab tests don't always show the full picture. The doctors will say there's nothing wrong, and even though you know that deep inside something is going on. Emotional and energetic load is rarely considered in these situations, and healing needs both science and intuition. Now, the energy archetypes are not labels or fixed identities. They are gentle patterns that help explain why your energy feels the way it does right now. I've created these energy archetypes to give you a language as to how the body is coping, how your stress response is reacting, your hormonal shifts, and your emotional load without blame or shame, because we need to keep in mind that these are physiological processes. So instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" the archetypes help you to ask, "What is my body asking for?" And when you can recognize their patterns, you can stop fighting your body, mind, and soul and start supporting yourself gently. And it's this awareness alone that often softens exhaustion and opens the door to more personalized, compassionate healing. So, as we go through, you may see yourself in one archetype, which is your primary archetype, or you may see yourself in more than one, and that's okay. All that means is that your fatigue is deep and on multiple levels. So, you need to nourish and nurture yourself on different levels. Now, so we're going to start today with the survivor. So the survivor, the inner adrenaline engine, the survivor is high cortisol, high adrenaline. This is when you've been running on stress hormones for so long that the wired but exhausted feels normal. I've been here and I can't believe that I thought that was normal life. I had no idea that there was another way. I thought rushing in the morning, skipping breakfast, grabbing coffee on the way to work or the supermarket for the weekly grocery shopping was normal. Or that doing everything for everyone else and leaving no time for myself was normal. I thought that was what being a woman was all about, doing it all and being exhausted. But I was wrong, and it's been a long journey to realize that that was not the way that it had to be, and that I could do things differently. I have no doubt that that way of life, that survivor archetype way of life, contributed to my autoimmune disease today. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing these archetypes and their stories with as many women as possible so that you don't have to suffer the way that I have. And so that you can change your journey, the way that you live your life, and you can heal yourself. Okay, so the core signs of the survivor are the crash and push energy cycles. So when you're full of energy and you go, 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 and then you crash. And then you go, 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 go again, and then you crash. And there's just no resting in between. There's anxiety and restlessness. There's the sleep struggles. So you're so exhausted and so tired, but your body and your mind just won't shift off, shut. Your body and your mind just won't shut off in the evenings, and you can't fall asleep no matter what you do. There's also that afternoon sugar or caffeine reliance. So, hello, 3 p.m. slump, reaching for coffee or some carbs or sugar to keep you going for the rest of the day, and just feeling constantly on alert. So, if you are always feeling on edge and something's going on, or if you're the kind of person that, someone walks around a corner and you jump and get a fright, then you're in the survivor archetype mode. Now, this is survival mode. It's getting by and getting shit done with no thought or connection to the body or the mind or the soul. So, connecting in lets us see what our body, mind, and soul are craving. So, if you're seeing yourself inside this survivor archetype, just have a little bit of a reflection and ask your body and mind and soul what they are craving. Is it rest? Is it nourishing foods? Is it more sleep? Maybe it's self-care like massage, Pilates, gardening, gentle exercise, doing the things you love. Or is it setting boundaries and saying no and standing up for yourself? Survival mode is unsustainable long term. It's great when we have a deadline or there's an emergency where we need that high cortisol and adrenaline to keep us focused and energized. But long term, it drains the adrenals, it takes a toll on the body, the mind, and the soul, and it eventually creates disease. So here's where we might see the autoimmune disease, mental health issues, issues with the lower back and the pelvis area, as these are the foundations of our energy centers, and these are all drained. So we're seeing these changes on a spiritual and a physical and an energetic level. So when we're in survival mode, all of our energy is shifted into the head area and we're not grounded. And this is where you might find yourself tripping over a lot or just feeling spacey or airy because all of your energy has shifted up into your head space. Now, this pattern can form for various reasons, but chronic stress is not just busy deadlines. It's also I won't flick there yet. It's also physical, so such as over exercising, that doing too much, not resting when you're sick, not fueling your body with nutritious foods. It's also caregiving, so doing everything for everyone. And maybe you do have someone that you have to care for, and this is non-negotiable. But how can you come back from that survival mode and regulate your nervous system? Now, I don't know the answer to that because that's a personal and individual journey that you need to reflect upon. But for me, it's looking after my grandkids who are 3 and 6. They're the best part of my life, but they are also the most exhausting. And I live next door to them, so I've had to set some boundaries. And I've also had to make sure that I take care of myself with regular massages and treatments or going away for a couple of days by myself. Because otherwise, I am just giving everything to them because that is what I want to do because I love them so much. But I need to remember myself. And taking care of myself is something that I never did before. Again, this is no doubt the reason I have an autoimmune disease, not taking care of myself, living in survival mode, being that survivor archetype. There's also overworking, which we do whether it's paid work or not. So if we're getting kids off to school or we're going to work during the day and then we're coming home in the evening and we're doing washing and shopping and cooking and cleaning and going to sports and going to family events, we're overworking and not giving ourselves time to let our body come back down into that slower nervous system state where our cortisol lowers. And that's the goal with the survivor archetype. It's great to be a survivor archetype. We need that cortisol and that inner adrenaline energy, but we need to remember to come back into the slower side of the survivor archetype, slowing down our nervous system. This archetype is all about nervous system. Now, other ways that we can get ourselves into this heightened survivor archetype state is the emotional load that women tend to carry. So, as women, we're nurturing and we're caring, and we kind of take on not only our own stuff, but everyone else's stuff. So, here in Victoria, in the last couple of months, we've just had the bushfires devastate Harcourt, which is a town that I only recently moved from. And the house that we lived in for about 12 years has burned to the ground. So the whole property, the house, the shed, everything is gone. Friends lost their houses, and the town that I loved was decimated. And this is really emotional for me. And that emotional load for me was hard, and I had to try not to dwell on it for long periods or try not to just worry about the locals who were struggling because there was nothing that I could do in that moment to help them except donate money. And so I did donate money and I journaled and I just made sure that I didn't take on the whole community's emotional load. And it's hard to do sometimes, but once you become aware of how much you take on or how much you dwell on other people's trauma, you can shift that energy. And that's what the archetypes are about. Understanding your fatigue story and changing that into energy and vitality. So if we have a look over here, at 3 healing steps you can start today because it's no good me telling you that you are the survivor archetype and you're like, yes, that is me. What do I do about it? So here are 3 steps that you can start today, keeping in mind that we're all individuals and this is just a basic starting guide for you to help bringing yourself back into energy and vitality. And awareness is the first key. So, eating protein within 60 minutes of waking. And I would add on to that as well, eating food before you have coffee. So, if you're having coffee on an empty stomach, that caffeine increases cortisol. So, if we're having it on an empty stomach, it's being absorbed quickly into the bloodstream and increasing our cortisol, and our day starts off with high cortisol. So, if we're having food before our coffee, that caffeine is then absorbed more slowly and our cortisol isn't going to spike as quickly. So, that's one important thing. But eating protein early helps to slow down how quickly glucose enters the bloodstream. So, most of the food, the carbs, and a lot of the food that we eat get turned into glucose into our body. And glucose and cortisol kind of have a little bit of a friendship, and glucose, lots of glucose at once can increase cortisol as well. So by having this protein, balancing our blood glucose, keeping our cortisol low, that will mean fewer mid-morning crashes, less sugar cravings later throughout the day, and more consistent energy. So when our breakfast is mostly carbs, that insulin spikes and then dips, and the body often asks for caffeine or sugar by 10 or 11 a.m. Now, cortisol naturally rises in the morning to wake us up, And protein plus healthy fats helps to stabilize that cortisol rise so it's not spiking. It reduces that stress hormone spike and it supports our adrenal resilience. So, this is particularly relevant for women in burnout, perimenopause, or chronic cycles of stress. Protein intake earlier in the day also supports muscle repair and maintenance, healthy metabolic rate, and satiety hormones like GLP-1 and peptide YY. Now, GLP-1 is what is now in the synthetic form of Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, those weight loss medications. But protein can actually help increase the secretion of those hormones. So it's called a glucagon-like peptide, and it's released from the gut when you eat. So especially when you eat protein, fats, and fiber. And it signals fullness to the brain. So you can trigger that GLP-1 peptide naturally. It also slows stomach emptying so that you stay satisfied for longer. It supports steady blood sugar by boosting insulin appropriately, which is why it's used for diabetes, and it also helps reduce the appetite naturally. So this is the way that weight loss medication mimics what your body does naturally. But your body can produce this GLP-1 peptide beautifully when nutrition, sleep, stress, and gut health are supported. So protein at breakfast helps to trigger that GLP-1 earlier in the day, which often means fewer sugar cravings later. So you can see why that increasing GLP-1 helps to reduce people's weight as well. Now, the peptide YY is more like the quiet contentment signal. So it rises after eating and tells your brain, we're nourished, you can relax now. And protein is going to help you activate this. Peptide YY also reduces appetite between meals, makes you feel fuller after eating. Again, helps with that the speed of your digestion, and it supports stable energy intake. So protein and fiber are the strongest triggers for the PYY. So if you're having protein and fiber in your breakfast, you are starting your day beautifully. You're keeping your cortisol low. You're activating these two peptides that are going to help you stay fuller for longer, support your blood sugar, and support your energy levels. So we're looking at supporting the nervous system for the survivor and improving our energy levels. That's what these energy archetypes are all about. Now, protein also provides amino acids, which are used to make serotonin to support our mood, dopamine for focus and motivation, and GABA to calm our nervous system. So this protein at breakfast often translates to clearer thinking and less irritability. So if you choose one thing to change, then this is a great start to bringing back your energy. Now, 5 minutes of slow breathing daily. Now, a lot of people say, I don't have time to do things. This is definitely a survivor archetype kind of state of mind, but let's have a think about where you're putting your time and prioritizing your time. And if you can prioritize your time to 5 minutes of slow breathing a day, you're going to slow down your nervous system. So this is another great thing to start in the morning, is practicing that slow, deep, full belly breathing. And that's going to activate the vagus nerve, which is the main communication highway between your brain, your heart, and your gut. So when you breathe deeply into the diaphragm rather than shallow chest breathing, then the body receives a clear signal that it is safe, which helps to shift you out of stress mode and into rest and repair, which is what our aim is with the survivor archetype. Now, this can slow your heart rate, ease tension, support your digestion, and improve emotional regulation. So practiced regularly, It becomes a simple yet powerful way to calm your nervous system and restore a steadier sense of balance. Now, reducing stimulants gradually, not abruptly, and stimulants are caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. Now, caffeine and alcohol both increase cortisol release, which contributes to those symptoms of tired but wired, overthinking, etc., not being able to sleep. If our cortisol's high in the evening, we're not going to be able to sleep because cortisol and melatonin work in synergy. And if cortisol's high, melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, can't rise. So we need to be aware of this in the evening. Where is my nervous system at? How is my cortisol? How am I feeling? How can I regulate my nervous system and bring it back down into this state, this calm state, so that my melatonin can rise? And reducing stimulants will help. Now, you may think that alcohol in the evening helps you to relax, and a glass of wine may help initially, but it actually disrupts the deeper restorative stages of sleep. So as your body metabolizes the alcohol overnight, it stimulates the nervous system and reduces REM and slow wave sleep, which are essential for physical repair, memory, hormone balance, and emotional regulation. So this often leads to lighter, more fragmented sleep, earlier waking, and that still tired feeling the next day. Now, even small amounts of alcohol can affect sleep quality, especially if it's consumed closer to bedtime. As I've said, caffeine stimulates the release of cortisol as well, especially on an empty stomach. But because cortisol is naturally higher after waking, adding that caffeine too early amplifies that response. And then sometimes you may feel jittery, anxiety, have blood sugar dips, and later energy crashes. So if you're struggling with anxiety, here's a really good moment to reflect on, am I having too much caffeine? Is one coffee a day too much for my nervous system in this moment? It's all about reflecting about it. Just reflecting and checking in with your body. So cutting back on these rather than going cold turkey is best for your body, because if you're drinking a lot of coffee or a lot of alcohol, then going cold turkey just puts extra stress on your body and your mind and your soul, as it withdraws from that its now natural state of high cortisol. Being in high cortisol state is not your fault. You're not to blame. It's kind of like a natural state that we can easily get driven into. My body's natural state now is high cortisol. And even though I've done all the work and I know all the things, I still often find myself with a clenched jaw or tight shoulders or rushing as I'm brushing my teeth. And I have to consciously become aware of that and take a few deep breaths and slow my nervous system back down. So it's about becoming aware and reflecting on what your body's needing. Now, I've popped an affirmation or a journal prompt in here for you. It is safe to live beyond survival. So, have a think about that, maybe do some journaling. Now, this beautiful survivor archetype teaches us that energy cannot be sustained through urgency alone. So while adrenaline and cortisol can carry you for a while, true vitality returns when safety replaces survival mode, when your body feels safe enough to rest. When rest, nourishment, and nervous system support are prioritized, then the body gradually remembers how to generate steady, grounded energy rather than relying on constant drive and constant go, 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 go. So this is the beautiful survivor archetype, the inner adrenaline engine. If you've resonated with her, then I suggest that you sit with this information for a while and do some reflecting and see what changes you can bring in to help slow down your beautiful survivor archetype and come back into that energy and vitality. Now, tomorrow we will be looking at the wise woman archetype, and I'm excited to share that as well.